Hi guys, Will and Courtney here from NeighborFoodblog.com.
Today we're really excited to be partnering with Ohio Pork to bring you some super juicy, crispy, air-fried pork chops. So let's get started.
Right here we have 4 pork chops, and we've done a little bit of prep work to get these ready for this recipe. All we've done is trim off a little bit of the fat around the outside edges, a little bit of the excess, and then we used a rolling pin wrapped with some plastic wrap to pound them just so that they're all nice and consistently thick, but still thick enough. You don't want to pound them too much. They're all still about 1 inch thick.
Now, pork chops tend to have a reputation sometimes for being dry, but usually the culprit of that is over baking. That's one of the main reasons that we've chosen to use a thick cut pork chop today. It's much harder to over bake that way, and when we're doing it in the air fryer, it gives us enough time to get that really crispy, nice crust without over baking the meat, so it stays nice and tender and juicy. So the first thing we need to do is cover these with a nice sprinkling of salt and pepper. Now that each pork chop has a nice layer of salt and pepper on both sides, we're going to be dredging it in a mixture of flour, eggs, and panko. So here's our 3 bowls. We start with just plain flour, then we have a lightly beaten egg, and then a mixture of panko, breadcrumbs, Parmesan cheese, garlic powder, oregano, and basil. And that's just kind of a really nice, simple Italian seasoning for these. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and get started dipping.
Now this 3-step process, flour, egg, and then breadcrumbs, reminds me of a traditional like fried chicken recipe or something like that.
Yeah.
But instead of using the deep fried method or pan frying where we're using lots of oil or butter, we're going to be using the air fryer. And that of course makes this recipe just a little bit more healthy because we're cutting some fat down. So that's a great option.
Yeah, you want to make sure as you're dipping that you're getting it coated on all sides, even on the edges. You don't want your poor little pork chop sides to not have any of that crunchy goodness on them.
Now that these all have a nice layer of the breading on them and they're back on the cutting board, before they go in the air fryer, we're going to give them a quick spritz with some non-stick vegetable oil spray. So just hit each one of these real quickly, and then that will kind of help to give them that golden crust.
All right, these are ready to go in the air fryer now. Most air fryers will fit 2 to 3 at one time, but the important thing to remember about air frying is that you always want to leave plenty of space around whatever you're putting in so that the air can circulate and get you that really nice crisp crust. I am cooking these at 375 degrees for 7 to 8 minutes before we flip them over. And I think I'm just gonna go do 2 in this batch. If your air fryer requires you to preheat, make sure you do that first. Some do and some don't, so always just be sure to read your instructions before you get started. All right, here we go.
All right, the timer just went off, so the first 2 pork chops are ready to flip. Let's take a look.
All right, we're gonna go back in for another 5 to 6 minutes.
All right, the timer just went off and they smell delicious. So we are gonna give them a quick check, and we're gonna use our meat thermometer to make sure that the internal temperature is right around 140 degrees Fahrenheit. Oh, that looks great. You can see there's a little bit of a golden edge on there, not quite as much as you'd see on like a battered fried chicken or fried meat, but because this is a breadcrumb and not a batter, this is perfect. This is gonna be so crispy and delicious. That Parmesan cheese is gonna be great. We're gonna stick this with a thermometer and just make sure we are right around, oh perfect, 142, 143, that is just right. Now with pork, it's okay to have a blush pink center. That's okay for pork. That is something that you may not be used to. You might see a lot of pork chops that are overcooked, like you were talking about earlier, that are just white all the way through. But if you want juicy pork, you want that little bit of blush pink in the center. That'll make sure they're
just say no to gray pork.
Oh yeah.
Now we have 2 more pork chops to cook here, so we're gonna put these on a metal cooling rack set on a baking sheet and put those in a low oven, about 200 degrees, just to keep them nice and warm and crispy while the others bake. After that, we'll be ready to eat. There you have it, crispy, juicy, air fryer pork chops.
For this and more great recipes, check out NeighborFoodblog.com.
Thanks for joining us, and see you again next time.
Same. Sorry, I screwed that up.
It's okay.
I'm lost. Oh God. I'm in a deep dark forest. Oh.
Rogue pork chop.
Oh. 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 The words are all gone.
I'm sorry, I didn't save you there. You were looking at me like, you looked over. I'm done. I'm dying here.
And record.